Let me just tell you.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it crossed my mind because Mainframe formed a very influential part of my childhood. And as I'm sure it did for many others, even for those who weren't children at the time, those who were adults, back in the days of home videos and VCRs, they watched a lot of Mainframe movies from Shawaride to Oleku to Tieluwanile to Agogo War to even more recently, movies like Maami and Dazzling Mirage. Now, 30 years is a long time. In fact,
I must remember I worked in television at all, so all the film content on television chain was provided on film. Some part of my career actually was in television. So after about 3 years in Western Nigerian television, I crossed over to Lagos. I was actually, I was posted to the Lagos office, and I was saving at that time to go to London Film School. So and after my 2 year in film school, I came back to NT because I was on bond and did a lot of newsreel work. And in fact, from Mainframe, I was under contract to BBC World Service and Reuters, and I was doing a lot of film. Most of the things that happened around MKO, Abacha time, and so anything you saw on BBC, chances that I shot, I shot those things.
Wow.
And then, so I had, when I left NTA, I formed a partnership with my friend Wale Fano in Surulere. We had Cinecraft, independent films, and we provided technical backing to most of the productions on film at that time, working with the theater people, basically.
Right.
Who had, transited from stage to television and then to film. So those were a preparatory period, for my own career.
Right. So having made films for over 3 decades, you must have, you're still making films. You were making films then and you're still making films now. There must have been challenges along the way, but somehow you seem to have adapted through the different eras of filmmaking. Even the tone of your films have sort of changed. Modernity has definitely gotten in. So I'd like us to talk about how you marry, tradition and culture with modernity, as well as some of the things that you have adapted or changed in the time since you've started making films. But we'll get to your answer after we take this commercial break, and we'll also get to talking in detail about...
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
bó o bá ṣetán tó o fẹ́ béèrè ọ̀nà máa rántí béèrè ọ̀nà lọ́wọ́ ẹni tó mọ̀nà kó o má bàa ṣìnà. ẹ̀yin ẹ̀dá bíi Olúmọ̀kẹ́ béèrè wọ̀ bí iléeṣẹ́ wo ló ń talẹ̀ tó ṣe é gbọ́kànlé mélòó ni kàkà mélòó ni ká sọ nípa iléeṣẹ́ IAS ṣé ti sísọ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ tí wọ́n rò pé àwọn lè donílẹ̀ tí wọ́n donílẹ̀ lọ́nà rọrùn kò tán síbẹ̀ o nílé iṣẹ́ IAS wọ́n tún fi ọ̀nà ẹ̀yáwó ìrọ̀rùn hàn oníbàárà wọn láti lè jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ tó ra ó di kíkọ́ ní kíákíá pẹ̀lú ìrànlọ́wọ́ ilé ìfowópamọ́ 6 ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ẹ̀yin oníbàárà wa gbogbo nílé iṣẹ́ IAS ṣé ẹ gbàgbé ọjọ́ 10 oṣù kẹwàá October 10 níbi tí ogún ènìyàn àní oníbàárà ogún ti fi ogún ẹ̀bùn ńláńlá ṣèfàjẹ́ oníbàárà méjì ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ló máa fọkọ̀ ayọ́kẹ́lẹ́ bọ̀gìnì méjì Toyota Camry Muzzle àti Toyota Big Daddy ṣèfàjẹ́ bó bá ṣe pé èmi nìwọ ni ẹnìkan ò bá fọhùn bí orò kó tún dún bí eégún iléeṣẹ́ IAS ni màá yà tètè lọ ra lẹ̀mí lọ́wọ́ báyìí 20,000 naira kan ní tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì oríire kan ibo gan ló ń fẹ́ ilẹ̀ rẹ sí lówó tí ò gani lára títí kan sí iléeṣẹ́ IAS tó bá súnmọ́ jùlọ ó yá pé 09033773189.
ẹ tẹ́tí sí ìkéde pàtàkì yìí jọ̀wọ́ fojú inú ìyàwòrán bí o ṣe fẹ́ kí ọdún kérésìmesì àti ọdún tuntun ìyẹn New Year ó dùn kó lárinrin tó ìwọ náà tètè tààrà ṣàṣà wá darapọ̀ mọ́ àwọn ọlọ́gbọ́n ènìyàn tí wọ́n mú ilé iṣẹ́ ABL Merchandise Nigeria Limited bí òpó tí ó ṣe é fẹ̀yìntì fún gbogbo ẹni tó fẹ́ ṣọdún lọ́nà tí ó dùn tí ó lárinrin ìwọ sáà ti rí dájú pé òun pẹ̀lú fi ó kéré tán 2,500 naira tàbí 10,000 naira pamọ́ lóṣooṣù fún ìmúrasílẹ̀ ọdún gbàrà tí ọdún bá ti kù ọ̀sẹ̀ kan ó ti ní àǹfààní láti wá gbé àwọn ohun gbogbo tí ẹ fẹ́ fi ṣọdún bíi rice òróró màálù ògúnfe adìẹ bí ó bá sì jẹ́ àwọn ohun èlò inú ilé bíi tẹlifíṣàn generator home theatre fridge freezer àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ ABL Merchandise Nigeria Limited wà ní 47 Purple Building Itamori Junction Abẹ́òkúta telephone number wọn ni 09026 08057857587.
See this one where you happy like this, you chop money ni.
Wait till I chop pass money because so this layer don't set.
As you yummy na.
See, I go yarn you. Revolution Plus Property don't come back with another one with them they call layer extraordinary promo.
Wow.
Yes, so from June 14th till August 30, when you subscribe into any of their properties where they Lagos, Abeokuta, Shimawa, Ibadan, and Abuja, just pay shikini money between 50,000 naira to 3 million naira or more. You get to win bags of rice, oil, food seasoning, salt, chicken, ram, even live cow. You never finish. You even spread your remaining payment for 6 months without interest. For more information, you fit visit their website for www.revolutionplusproperty.com or call 0811 283 5555 0811 286 5555. Don't forget, say terms and conditions dey sha o.
Revolution Plus Property, affordable wholesale.
ẹ tẹ́tí sí ìsọfúnni yìí ojú ò mọ̀ pé ó ṣeé ṣe fún wọn náà láti máa gba ó kéré tán 80,000 naira tàbí jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìpín rẹ níparí oṣù kọ̀ọ̀kan bó o bá pinnu láti pẹ̀lú ṣiṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú ilé-iṣẹ́ tó ń fẹ́ ìlọsíwájú àti ìrọ̀rùn fún ọ yìí ilé-iṣẹ́ IAS Unique Homes and Properties 1st January Agro Investment Limited June 6 Energies Nigerian Limited àti ABL Merchandise Nigerian Limited kí ìgbésí ayé rẹ lè yí padà sí rere ẹ wá gbọ́ o ọjọ́ Monday tó ń bọ̀ yìí ní ìgbanisíṣẹ́ yìí máa wáyé July ọjọ́ 5 oṣù kejì ọdún yìí a kì í rẹ́fọ̀n ta lẹ́ẹ̀méje tètè sọ fẹ́ni tó súnmọ́ tó múra tán láti ṣiṣẹ́ pé ilé-iṣẹ́ wọ̀nyí fẹ́ gba àyàn síṣẹ́ láti mọ ìgbésẹ̀ tó kàn wọ́n náà pe ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 080 67 97 8712 080 67 97 8712.
wá ọ̀rẹ́ wa má bá wọn dáwó sí gbómọ̀ tó bá fẹ́ ralẹ̀ ẹni tó ṣe gbọ́kànlé ni kó wá lọ. Rush Gardens is a reliable real estate company with excellent track record and service delivery. wọ́n ṣe gbọ́kànlé wá jẹ́ àǹfààní promo tó ń lọ lọ́wọ́ lórí Rush Gardens phase 1 Ọbadaoko.
4 million naira látàtẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 2.5 million naira lẹ́sàn.
Guess what? You can pay in installments. bó bá ṣe ń san díẹ̀ nínú owó ni wàá máa gba receipts and other documents like contract of sale, estate covenants, survey plan àti D1 Ọbadaoko. má jẹ́ kó fún ọ̀rọ̀.
2.5 million naira lẹ́sàn.
àwọn existing customers wà bí ẹlẹ́rìí wọ́n ti ń kọ́lé wọ́n ti ń gbé bẹ̀. a wà ní first floor Emmanuel Plaza Oníkókó Road Panṣẹ́kẹ́ Abẹ́òkúta 08106127942 08106127942. Rush Gardens, client focused and result oriented.
ìparí oṣù keje làǹfààní yìí wà sọ.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
Gosh, that sound. I was sad to see that you had retired that sound. Why did you retire it? That soundtrack, that intro was it's indelible, almost unforgettable in, when you remember the mainframe brand, the Okomulero brand. Why did you retire that sound?
I might bring it back, really. It's just on AYINLA that because of the various partnership I had on it. It's not solely a mainframe production. Mm-hmm. Come to think of it, it's a protest. It's a protest, from some form of protest, because the studio ident of Paramount, 20th Century Fox, and also
Lionsgate,
and all those ones. So mine has to say, listen to me. This is me. That's starting from the talking drum and saying, look, I come from this heritage, and grab your seats because I'm going to tell you a story right now.
Wow. Okay, so the heritage thing is another thing I want to get to. But the earlier question I was asking before we went on that commercial break, by the way, I'm speaking with filmmaker, storyteller, as he'd like to be called, Tunde Kelani, or TK, as he's asked me to call him. So, TK, I was asking how your filmmaking has evolved since you started making films from the 90s up until now. You're still making films now. What has changed?
The past. For instance, you talk about making film then
and now.
No, I make film in our 21st century. So it's not as if it is about then. No, it is not. It's as current. If you, for instance, in Shawarde, 20 years ago, 20 years down the line, what was Shawarde doing? Making comments on social, political issues. Things that are of relevance even today. So it is not, when you talk about culture and heritage, no, we're actually talking about 21st century.
You may be onto something there, because you may not be aware of this, but sometime last year on Twitter, before it was banned, of course, there was a clip from Shawaride that surfaced regarding to a political situation in the country at the time. You may remember that clip. It's that particular scene. It's where those pressmen were interviewing the chiefs who had just gotten the cars, and the chiefs obviously feeling defensive because they hadn't gotten it through clean means, were then chasing the pressmen away. So you may have a point, you may be onto something when you say that these themes are contemporary themes, because we're talking about a movie from over decades ago and it's still applicable to the present day situation in the country. All right, now let's focus on Ayinla. Ayinla has been doing so well at the box office. From what I gather, it grossed 24 million in its opening weekend, and it's that's despite the fact that it's showing only in select cinemas in the Southwest. Not to mention, it's the #1 Nollywood movie at the box office in the 2 weeks since it's been released. Are you surprised at the reception? Are you surprised at the success the film has garnered? Did you have doubts as to whether it would pique the interest of people enough to see it?
No. As a matter of fact, when you think about it, and then I said, look, that data must be updated after Ayinla, because we simply have excluded the potential audience of the cinema, from the new dispensation. We are not used to that kind of experience, and it's a confirmation that our cinema, it caters for the middle class and elite. The potential audience, all what we're doing is just for 30% of Nigerians. 70% have not gone to the cinema, or they don't have access to the cinema. So I'm anxious about Ayinla, although for starters, I think I'm happy that it's proving us all wrong or right. But we're not doing too well, because it's exposed Nigeria that we have serious infrastructure deficit. Ayinla opening in 33 cinemas. It should have opened in 300 cinemas. In Lagos, would have made substantial Nigerian film industry or Nollywood truly, truly sustainable. We still have to work at it.
Right. Okay. Now, I want to focus on Ayinla the man. Such an interesting character, really. I guess it's people who have many...
Because it's safe. What we've done is really safe. Although Ayinla passed for more than 40 years ago, the old wounds are there. We don't want to reopen all those wounds. That's on the first hand. And then the thing is to, we are inspired definitely by this man, his personality, particularly talent, and the legacy that he has left behind.
Right.
I think basically that's the thrust of the story. If anybody came around and said, no, this is not Ayinla's story, then say, no, it is not. It is really didn't mind. That's why I think biopic of Ayinla.
Meaning that everybody thinks it's all fact, no fiction.
Everybody thinks that this must be the man, because it's gone long time ago, and
there are few alive who were present.
In other words, it gave us an opportunity to look at the other side of this man. He's a human being after all. Maybe behind, when people who are celebrities like that,
right?
They focus on one aspect of them, but it gives us an opportunity to look at the other side of Ayinla the man.
Without giving away any spoilers, Ayinla the man, had many faults and also many strengths. This was a man who, was quick to anger. This was a man who was a family man. This was a man who loved women. This was a man who died right as he was about to take Akpala music, globally. But despite that, despite the short stay he had on Earth, he was able to give us 22 volumes of music before his death. And his music was both a medium and an expression, or maybe even an extension of the man himself. Despite the fact that he wasn't literate, his themes, his lyrics were somewhat profound. We've seen a renewed interest, sort of. We've seen that the man is still able to have people interested in his life, even years after his death. Even aside from your film, he even had a book written posthumously about him. So what would you say it is about the man himself? I'm talking about Ayinla Omowura himself, Anigilaji, that after his passing, decades after his passing, still makes him a subject of interest. What made you, in particular as a storyteller, decide that his story was worth telling? Because I imagine there are a number of other interesting characters as well in our history, in the Yoruba history. So what is it about the man that caught your interest?
Well, I was interested in music generally, our music, and in Akwala. The father of Akwala is Aruna Shola. And then, of course, the other strains like Legali Mugaibi. And, but what happened is that you could have called in the 70s, 80s, Ayinla was like hip-hop Akwala because it came up with a fast pace. And then his asset was this voice, which is absolutely not common. There's nobody that can sing like Ayinla Omowura. He has to only be... And then the combination with Adewale Onilola, so there's many things at play here, because Ayinla is singing and Adewale is singing with the drum. So you are listening to the two at the same time.
Right.
And people who have the ears and the knowledge can discern. So, and last lyric, pa igun dojo ale, ebi ki pa igun dojo ale. And you have to think about it. Literally, what is igun?
Vulture.
Vulture. So, ebi o ki n pa vulture di ojo ale, meaning that before the end of the day, the vulture will find
something to feed on.
Exactly. So, in this case now, if it's a poetic or idiom, whatever you call it,
Proverb,
it is applicable to the human being. No, don't worry. Just stick at it. Don't worry. Just go on.
Be tenacious. Persevere.
You will be rewarded, soon.
Right.
So just have the patience and be focused. And then, of course, you know that you know what is coming at the end of it.
Right.
Every line of Ayinla music, it means something. And then as when he sings, as the leader of that band, he's about the only musician I know that he joins the chorus. He also joins the chorus. And then when he does that, now he changes his delivery, his voice and everything. So if you just listen to it, you are finding new things. It's giving you a line of thought, and then you really, wait a minute, how can somebody arrange those lyrics to fit this particular, in this space and time? So there's a whole lot of study.
Right.
You could never forget Ayinla Omowura.
Right. Now, I'm talking to Tunde Kelani. Tunde Kelani is my guest today on Splash Extra, here on your integrity station, Splash 106.7 FM. You might have heard that Ayinla, the movie, is out in cinemas. It's been out now for close to 2 weeks. If you've seen it and you want to find out some things about it, we've spoken about it just now, and I've also spoken to TK about his craft as well. We're going to have to wrap things up pretty soon, but my final question is, the Yoruba heritage, the Yoruba culture, the Yoruba way of life is so evident in all that you do, in your art, even in how you dress. You are a proud Yoruba man. and you're very passionate about promoting the Yoruba way of life, from the dialogue, to the subject matter. This is more of a philosophical question, maybe. Do you think that with the way the Yoruba language, culture, and heritage is right now, many people think that it's at risk of dying? Maybe not now, but gradually, because not many people are passing on the language and the way of life to their children, and it goes on and on. Who don't pass it on? The little those ones know, they don't pass it on. And there are people now who have a disconnect with their language, their identity, who cannot speak it. I mean, I'm somewhat guilty of that. So do you think the Yoruba language and heritage is at risk of dying? Maybe not now, but in the immediate future. And what would you say we should do to that?
No, that without that doubt, it will die because.
Oh, that sounds dire.
Yeah, because they say, for instance, that if you want a book to be out of circulation, you must just stop publishing it. So if you think a language can die or not, if you want it to die, or if somebody came and conquered you and sat on you,
right,
to make sure that you lose your language and identity, they will force you to stop speaking your language. You understand? So in this case now, our experience was our colonial experience. People came, threw gun at whatever at us,
right,
and then convinced us that we must speak their language and abandon our own heroes and take to their own heroes and all that. So it has been programmed that now our people have taken it. We were forced, but now we have had, since independence, 60 years, we have willingly submitted, or decided to cut off from our own language and culture.
And that makes you sad.
It makes me sad. But I start worrying about it because something tells me that if Yoruba language and culture disappears in the homeland, which I hope not, it will never die, because 300 years or 200 years of enslavement in the diaspora, Yoruba language and culture did not die.
Right.
So if it dies at home, it will not die outside in those places.
All right, that's something to ponder on. Thank you very much, TK, for agreeing to sit with me this afternoon on Splash Extra. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And I thank our listeners or Abeokuta people for going to the cinema to see this. Don't worry. Just try and see it. Things will get better and better. And I promise you, as your TK and Mainframe Productions of Pomero, I will never let you down.
Those are words to hold TK by. Hold him to hold him to. I'm sure there are more works in the future. TK has told me about a number of works to watch out for as well, also from Mainframe Okomilero Productions. So keep your eyes peeled out for that. In the meantime, if you haven't seen AYINLA, I would suggest that you do. I had the privilege of seeing it this weekend. I got an invite from TK, but even if he hadn't invited me personally, I had put it on my to-do list to go see AYINLA. If you think you know the story of AYINLA, you still need to see the film. Okay, it's so much more than about as well. And if you watched us on Facebook, shout out to you for being a real G. So keep sending those song requests. When we come back at 2, we'll take Champions Challenge. My name is Lola. Let's go pay those bills.